This is the magicwordpodcast.com.
Hello, this is Scott Wells for the magicwordpodcast.com. This week's episode is brought to you by the New York Magic Conference and the Salute to Magic, both of which will be held on June the 14th. So that's just coming up very soon, and there will be more information about that later in this podcast, but you can always go to the Magic Convention Guide where you can hear a longer episode, an audible recording we had that tells you more about the people who are going to be there, the location, and everything else. But these are two fun conferences, or two events, I should say, that would be well worth your time if you live anywhere in or near the New York City area, because it's going to be held there in the city, and they are about a 20-minute subway ride apart from each other. But you can attend one that's going to be from like 10 until 4, and then the Salute to Magic, which is going to be an evening show featuring Javi Benitez doing his evening show, as well as some other performers. That's going to be happening then at the Abrams Arts Center. Anyhow, point is, we appreciate them sponsoring the podcast here this week. This podcast, by the way, was recorded when we were at the 4F convention in Buffalo, New York. Last week, we chatted briefly we chatted for the whole episode with Carl Mercurio and Jim Vines, both of whom have a dual act that they work in New York City, speaking of the city. And this week, we continue with another dual act that has their own theater as well. And I say their own theater, they have a place where they actually perform at the Hilton there in Indianapolis, Indiana. And they have been doing this for a long number of years and have been very successful at it. They were working in the college circuit for a number of years, and then decided, hey, we'd rather just kind of stay in one place, not have to drive everywhere like crazy. As you get older, you tend to want to stay in one place a little bit longer. Well, anyhow, this particular episode is a little bit different, because typically whenever I sit down and chat with some friends like they are and have been for a long number of years, we have just a good casual conversation and talking about a variety of subjects. And this week, we really jump right into the thick of things from the very get-go in talking about business. And as a result, this whole hour is really dedicated a lot to learning about how to find a theater, how to put your act together, the importance of marketing. And they, again, have a two-person mind-reading act, and they are a mentalism duo, and again have been quite successful in the college circuit and now independently doing their mind-tripping show there in Indianapolis. And if you ever get to the Indianapolis area, be sure to check them out and see their show. It is wonderful. And I am going to let them talk more about that here this week, but I just thought I would let you know up front, this is a little bit more business-oriented than it is kind of chatty-like, but they do share a lot of funny stories. I think that you will get a chuckle out of some of the things that Christian has to say then, too. So please welcome my guests, my good friends here this week, Christian and Katalina, here on The Magic Word. Today we're going to be talking with a couple of good friends who are from the Indianapolis area up in Indiana in the States of the United. And they have their own two-person show. It's been running now for about 8 years or so. 16 years. Sorry, but double that then. And, you hardly seem old enough to have been doing that long. And I always like to talk with people who have their own show, because there are those of you who are listening around the world who might want to replicate something similar. And by looking at someone who has achieved some level of success, you can try to use some of their ideas and be inspired and encouraged by them as well. They've been around for a long time met each other a long time ago, I know, in the military, having both served. Thank you very much for your service. You probably get tired of hearing that. But
thanks for paying your taxes.
Okay. And then also doing magic, but more specifically specializing really in mentalism, which has been a real passion for both of you. And then doing just one of the really good two-person mind-reading act and everything else that you're doing, and then putting together the show. So welcome my guests today, Christian and Katalina Painter. Hey, Christian, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm so happy to be here. This is great fun.
Awesome, Scott.
Awesome
good to see you.
Yes, as well. Seems like, each year that we're right now at the 4F convention, and you guys all often will host a thing called an Ed Talk, which is after Eddie Fechter. And so it's kind of like a TED Talk type of a thing. And it's always something that's kind of fun and bringing something new to the table. And I wanted to talk about the show that you're doing. When you got started doing that, you say like 16 years ago, how did you find your venue?
Isn't that crazy?
You want to start with that? Or
I can start with the venue.
No, you know what? You should start with the show when we do the show.
Which show?
The show thing that you always say. So we'll start with the venue.
Okay.
So the venue is actually, I always consider of this process, the easiest part. Because you're just going to go out and find somewhere that has a room that's not being used as much as, maybe they would like it to be. Mm-hmm. So you might have to see many hotels or restaurants. You could use this in a restaurant that has multiple rooms for big parties. Mm-hmm. And you just have to find a place that has an empty space and they just want to fill it with something. And then you just go approach them. But like I say, that's the easy part. Is going and finding that. People get maybe intimidated by doing it, but it's just easy. You can just go find a room that's not being used in a hotel or a restaurant or anything. And then you talk to the people. But the hard part is.
So really, you have to find someone who understands your vision immediately. If someone doesn't get the concept of, I want to do a performance in this space on a either weekly or monthly, some type of basis, whatever timeline you determine. If they don't understand that concept immediately, do not waste your time on them. Mm-hmm. That person you're sitting there talking to has to say, okay, I get what you're trying to do. I like the idea. They may have to think about it. It's fine. But as long as they understand your concept, great, then continue to work with them. But don't try and, work with someone who
you're
doesn't
wasting time
understand.
for both of you.
It's a waste of time if that person doesn't even get what you're trying to do.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, the great thing is there's so many more people doing this now. So I think there's more awareness about having a show in a hotel or having a show in a restaurant because, as you know, you probably interviewed a lot of people. Mm-hmm. It's now across the country, and there's a lot of people doing it. So that is fantastic.
I was going to say that because I remember many years ago when Jamie Salinas and I were doing this in Houston, and the two of you happened to be coming through town.
We saw you guys.
And you came to our show there at that time. Mm-hmm. And we had a cigar out in the back patio and everything over there then, too. Was that long about the time you were starting the show? Because that must have been.
Actually, we were in the middle of we were doing colleges back then.
Touring,
so we were touring. And what we would do while we were touring is anytime we had a day off, what's the closest magic show we can see? What's the closest magic related thing? So not only were we touring, but at every chance, that's why these guys have a show. Let's go see it.
Mm-hmm. How'd you hear about our show, by the way? I want to get to advertising about that, too. How'd you find out about it?
I am sure we got to the town and we just started looking at, how is there
online?
Online.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You're flipping like you're using your yellow pages here or something.
It's hard to say now because, now we're talking 20 years ago. But, whatever, we're looking, whether it's online or in the, as soon as we get to the town, looking at the advertisements, whatever. But we were always looking. But I would say, before we even go farther than this, here is the most important thing. If you want to do what we're talking about, you must have.
Oh, well, if you want to get into that right now.
Yeah, at the beginning. They need to know at the beginning before they even think about doing this.
So the key is once you start this process, you have to have a solid show. Mm-hmm. Don't even think about starting the process of getting a venue and then thinking you're going to write a show. Mm-hmm. That's the worst thing you could possibly do.
Will never happen.
You have to have a good, solid show, whether that's 45 minutes, 60, 75, whatever your length of time is. You must have a solid show that is set, that you don't have to fix.
It's like working cruise ships. You can't find the ship first and then say, oh, my gosh, I need to get an act.
Right. You're exactly right. Because you'll be spending too much time on marketing and business once you find the venue. You don't have time to do a show, and you don't want bad reviews, especially in this environment. Your show has to be solid before
you live and die by pretty much the TripAdvisor and
that's correct.
Yelp. Is that true nowadays?
Yes,
there's so many
yes
review
and no.
sites.
There's so many review sites.
But here's
you don't want a bad review right off the bat.
Yeah.
Right? You're a new your show has to be solid.
Have a solid show.
Yep.
How do you know when you've reached that solidness of show?
Well, you're always going to change your show and make it better.
Correct.
But you should.
I mean, even today, you guys, we're
always changing.
Evolving, yeah.
But you have to have, I'm assuming that you have, or whoever's doing this to put their venue together has
been working somewhere.
Has been working, been practicing. So has put together, like I said, it doesn't have to be the best show or the perfect show, but it has to be a good, solid show that you can do. And
here's what we'll hear. At least 50% of the time, maybe more, people will come to us and go, oh, I want to do what you guys are doing, blah, blah, blah. And then the next thing we'll hear is, so I've been writing this show. No, No, there's no writing a show in life. You're not, you're not Broadway. You already have to have the show going in, and it has to be solid because, as Katalina says, when you start this show, you're going to be so busy doing marketing and everything else, you don't really have time to work on
you want to get butts in seats at that point. Yeah. You want to get the word out to your community.
And if your show's not good and you rack up 5 or 6 bad reviews immediately, and by bad review,
you're dead.
Yeah, you're dead.
In the water before you even start.
Yeah. So, and those reviews don't go away. They do not. They sit there for years.
Mm-hmm. And people look for those probably too.
Yeah.
They want to,
always.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, people will come to us sometimes and say, we read the worst reviews first. Right? And
Sure.
and it's funny, but it's true, right? We all do. Yeah. If you're on Amazon, you're looking at something, let me look at the worst reviews, let me look at the best reviews or whatever. Mm-hmm. You don't look at the middle reviews. You look at the worst and the best and kind of make a decision. And fortunately, even for us, we have some bad reviews and we could fight it and probably get them removed, but we let them stay because typically those bad reviews are so ridiculous that.
But you can't argue them. I mean, it is what it is and it's out there.
Right.
Well, and we don't want to argue it because look, entertainment is subjective. Mm-hmm. So not everybody's going to like what you do. That's just what the world is. So great. If you don't like what we do, perfect. That's totally fine. You came to our show. We thank you for trying it out.
And I think one of the best bad reviews we got was a guy who said, well, I figured out all of their tricks. And I think those who are above average intelligence will understand this. Blah, blah. And he went on this, and I'm like, dude, what? Like, it was all about him, like how intelligent he was.
He was, figured it out.
And people would read that review, come to our show and go, oh, yeah, that guy sold us. He was an idiot. So we had to go. And I'm like, wow, there you go. So you just, you're going to get a couple bad reviews. It doesn't matter because people are people. But you cannot have starting out bad reviews. I mean, you must be crushing it immediately. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's number one. You better have that show.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so after you have the show, then you start looking for the venue. And again, you have to have somebody who's going to have a like vision as yours. And I think, as you said, there are more theaters, there's more show. I think we are in a golden age of magic where people have more access to seeing magic, whether it's going to be online or even locally. Let's say, a lot of clubs that are opening up. And so, they might say, well, yeah, I know across town they got something, so I don't mind competing. I need to get a piece of that action also. Apparently, there's enough business for more than just one. So I think that it's an easier sale job now than it was 10 years ago even.
No, I agree. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The exposure to magic in the last 10 years has been phenomenal.
Phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And now having a venue like this. And I think also it's the arc of everything. I think, back in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s, supper clubs were huge.
Sure.
You would go out to see a show, have a dinner or whatever. And then I think television killed it. Because now I could just stay home.
And have a TV dinner.
Right. Yeah. And now I think we're kind of coming around because now television is kind of dead, right? You do almost everything streaming.
Yeah.
And I think people are now wanting to well, let's go back out. And movies are almost dead, right? Because I can just watch movies at home. So they're looking for these kind of
live experiences.
Yeah, live experiences, nightclub experiences. And we're seeing a nice resurgence of that. Yeah. But on top of that, you're going to have to know marketing. You're going to have to know how to make a website. You're going to have to know how to do social media.
Well, now you're kind of pushing people away who might be listening to, no, I don't know that, right?
But you have to. That's how marketing is done
How
these
do
days.
they go about learning that?
Yeah. I mean, it's all over the internet. You can just it doesn't have to be for a magic show.
You don't need to go to a college to learn marketing.
You're going to have to go on. I'll give you an example of how deep I'll go is I'm always looking at how anyone markets, right? How do you market? And it was interesting. I was watching a guy it was the influencer world, right? Where they all do stuff. And in the influencer world, this guy was talking about, you have to make the thumbnails for, people to click on.
Right.
And he makes these goofy faces and he goes, I hate these goofy faces, but they are what people click on. And he did all the testing where he said, I made 5 different thumbnails. My goofy face is the one I made was way ahead of the rest. And so you watch people who are online telling you what they do to market, whatever they're marketing. It doesn't matter whether they're marketing, their honey that they make at home or something on Etsy or whatever. Marketing is marketing. And so you just go on there and you find out, well, how are they doing it? And then how do I do it for my show?
You have to learn, right? And there's obviously a lot of resources online to help you learn, but you have to know there's so many different platforms, right? I mean, are you going to do Facebook, Instagram, TikTok? YouTube,
Yep.
and then are you going on TripAdvisor, Yelp, Google, all that stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of different, platforms that you have to consider and think about what fits you. And then there will be more. Twitter, right? There will be more, or X, I should say. It's going to keep going.
How we marketed 16 years ago is radically different than how we are now because the internet has changed.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's true.
And AI now is now becoming.
Oh my gosh, yeah, huge. That's true. Which makes it, I think, a little bit easier for you as well to create some things.
To create things, yes, easier, but also harder because the rules have changed and we don't know what the rules are yet as they're changing.
Still feeling it out.
Yeah, you still have to be there, turning knobs and okay.
But there are companies, let's say like I work with Squarespace for my podcast. And also MailChimp. And each of them have their own marketing tools. And so you can learn things by watching their videos that are online.
Yes, right.
Or you can just kind of push some buttons and they will automatically upload that to all the social media without you having to go and do some things.
Yep.
So I'm just saying to those who might be daunted by what you've just said, say, I got to do this, I got to have this and this and this and this. That might be one thing that's off your plate. Another thing would be a virtual assistant. But before we get to that, what are we going to say?
Sorry, but you still have to monitor because remember, there's interaction with people. On X, on Instagram, on Facebook. So comments, things like that, you're going to have to continue to monitor because people will.
I had to get off of Reddit because I was just submitting things to Reddit, but I wasn't responding. I didn't understand how Reddit worked.
Right.
And there were some comments saying all this guy is doing is just trying to promote his business and he's not responding to any of the comments that are on here. I just posted it and I didn't even read it. I didn't go back and look.
Oh, right.
And it's a more of an interactive thing.
Exactly.
And so it's like, I want them saying bad things about it just because I'm.
Right. And it's not because, well, of course you're trying to promote yourself, but if you don't understand the rules of some of the platforms, then they turn on you, even though I'm just trying to be part of the world.
Yeah.
But if you don't know the rules of certain platforms, because they all have their personalities.
That's true.
And you can step on toes unknowingly.
And the other thing is you have to be careful because some people, like on Facebook in particular, so you write a post on your business page, right? And then someone will write, I have tickets to the show, contact me, which is completely spam and it's completely false.
Yep.
And if you don't delete that immediately, you don't want someone else to be scammed because someone just put saying, I've got tickets, which they don't. So you have to be really careful. And monitor that all the time.
Someone will try and say, I have these tickets to their show.
Yes.
You can buy them from me.
Yes.
And you're like, what? No.
And that's completely false and fake. And so you don't want anybody getting into trouble.
So do you follow up when you have seen those kinds of posts?
All the time. I delete it immediately.
Oh, you delete it? You don't even respond to the person?
Absolutely not. I delete it. I don't want to deal with them because it's fake, it's false, and it's spam.
And it's probably a program spam. So even if you try to respond to them or whatever, they're
not going to.
Well, I've reported to Facebook,
but there's no.
I was unaware of that.
That's just some program. That's just they're going out looking for something, and it's almost like an AI thing.
Yeah,
it just sees tickets. I'll buy tickets. Put on like the person who's doing the scamming probably is even aware that their program is hitting our site or some other site.
I know a lot of people are collecting emails through various ways of doing it. And I was just talking with someone the other day where they say, okay, we're going to have this voting contest. And so we want you to put in your email and then you can vote during the intermission. I think, in fact, that's why I was just talking with Jim Vines and Carl Mercurial, and they were saying, or maybe somebody was telling me about during the intermission. No, it wasn't them. Somebody that during the intermission, they would say, okay, how would you like for this to end? What would you like for us to do? Vote on this. They've already got a pre-planned ending, whatever they're going to do anyhow, but that's just a way of collecting email addresses, which I think is kind of a brilliant idea. My point is, and question is, you need to make sure you know why you want the emails and that you're going to do something with it, because you shouldn't just be collecting them and say, well, I've got this many email addresses, but do you guys collect emails and then follow up on those or thank them for coming? Or do you have like a generator that goes out or?
Always.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, we send out emails about maybe because we like to do a ghost show too. So we'll send out an email later on down the road about, hey, here's when a ghost show is happening. But, we have people sign up at our show if they like, and anybody who signs up right then and there, then we send a follow-up email thanking them for coming to the show.
Yeah.
They can sign up in the ticket buying process if they like. That's an option. They don't have to, of course. They can opt out. They can sign up through our website. So just lots of different options for that, for email capture.
I think the people are thinking, I want to do what they're doing, or what everyone, these cabaret shows are now popping up.
Yeah.
Is they think, I want to be on that stage. I want to be doing that. But they don't realize that is only 1 hour of your time. There is another 40 hours that you will be doing the marketing, the following up on emails, all the other stuff. So if they're not willing, and it's okay, we get it. This is a lot of work. If you're not willing to do all of that to be on stage, then, by all means, we get it. You can go work for the Chicago Magic Lounge or the House of Cards or whatever. And that's a lot easier than doing all the things we're talking about because it's a full-time job.
Because remember, you're not just performing, right? And we just talked about the business and the marketing.
Right.
Okay. Well, what about show day? Who's going to be at your booth? Who's going to be checking people in? Who's going to be seating people? So there's a lot of other considerations, even that particular day of the show, that has nothing to do with what we just talked about on the marketing and business.
And so if you are doing your own show, then you might need to have someone else who you're employing, whether it's a family member or somebody else who is going to be doing these other kinds of tasks.
Absolutely.
Because you got to be backstage putting things together. You can't be out there checking people in and shaking hands.
Yeah. That's right. Who's going to do it?
And the days you're doing 2 shows in a row, there's a turnover that's going to happen. You've got to
get people out and
you got to reset your show. Somebody else has got to be handling that. There is a lot going on and you have to be aware of all that. And now you're going to be paying people, however you're going to, set up that payment. So there's a lot. So location is important. Like, where are you going to have the show? So some things to consider is it going to be in a tourist area where the turnover of people could be potentially every few days people turn over, every week people turn over, right? How long do people stay at that particular location? So if you have a lot of tourists, you can have maybe more shows. Right. If you only think your particular location can handle maybe 1 show a week, right? That's fine. But just understand what your demographic might be coming to your show. So keep that in mind. If you want to do many shows, some of these tourist locations, you could do 6 shows a week, right? Depending upon where you're located. So if you opened a show in Myrtle Beach, you could probably do a show every night, at the high season.
Right.
As opposed to if you're in Topeka, well, then maybe you're only doing a show once a week. Right. So I tell people you also have to decide if this is really what you need to do. Think about where you want to live, because once you set it up.
It reminds me of the Zubricks whenever they were trying to decide where they wanted to put their theater after they had left Guam and they came over here and they went from coast to coast trying to find some place.
The perfect venue.
They ended up then down in Florida.
Which was a great place for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
We actually saw their show in Guam.
We saw them in Guam. It was great. Yeah. They were super nice.
Super nice. Yeah, they were super nice.
Super nice, yeah.
Nice fellas. So when you were in Guam, were you working cruise ships or something at the time?
No, that was a military tour.
Oh, okay.
And we got to see them. We ran over and, they didn't know us. It was just a bunch of performers, but they were so gracious and they took us backstage, showed us, all the stuff
we saw the animals.
I was about to say, they used to do big animals.
Yeah, we saw them.
Now, they took over for Rick Thomas, as I recall. Isn't that right? Or
in Guam,
In Guam. It seems like the Rick had a show there for a while. He left and then came back. And it seems like a Zubricks. And then
I thought they were in Saipan first and then they moved to Guam.
I may be confusing.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. But Rick Thomas has been everywhere.
Yeah.
So
well, that's true, too. But then when they moved then to Florida, of course, they'd gotten rid of all the animals and everything, and it's a much smaller stage. Have you seen their
No.
We have not had a chance to see it down there.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, a couple times.
Great.
Yeah, and I've chatted with them on the podcast, and they've become good friends. They have a son also.
Yeah.
Which cute little boy.
Yeah.
Anyhow, which is the sister, I think, of one of them or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow, the show I was going to say, getting back to that, where you get butts in the seats. And so that's like one step of that in order to get people to come in. And then also once they do is starting to tell their friends. And do you find that you have then a lot of turnover? I assume you do, but it is, Indianapolis is not a destination city necessarily like Orlando, for an example. So I assume you have a lot of repeat business.
We certainly do. We
love it.
Yeah.
I mean, because some people, anytime family's in town, come on, let's go to the show. Friends are in town, come on, let's go to the show. Remember, we had one couple every year they came to our show for 10 years. Wow. And then they told us this last time they were moving to New Mexico.
Yeah.
And we're like, no.
Yeah. And we didn't even know about that. They were just very quiet. Mm-hmm. And they only told us when we went, one of the saddest things about leaving Indianapolis is, you become a kind of a, what do you call it, a tradition for us. Mm-hmm. That, every time this year we come see your show. Because we also change our show a little bit.
Oh, that was what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Because you do have a lot of people. Same thing like whenever you work a restaurant and you have repeat customers. Yes. It's like, people come in and want to see some of the same things, but they also want to see something kind of new.
Right. So once you get established, once you get it up and running, I'd say it's going to take you a year or two. Then you have now more time to go. Now I can look back at my show and start working for new pieces, new whatever. In fact, we used to say all the time, if you want to do an hour show, you better have an hour and a half of material ready.
Yeah.
Ready. Now, I mean, not that you're working on, that you already know is good, because when you get your show up and running and you're working on everything else, you might go, this piece isn't playing for whatever reason, but I have another piece I can just throw in. I don't have to think about it. It's a piece I've always done.
Mm-hmm.
But then after a couple of years, now you can start working on new pieces to put in your show because you understand the rhythm and all the marketing and all the things you have to do. And I think that's what it does. I think we didn't change much in 2 years.
No, I agree. First 2 years was all marketing business.
Now we're always putting, I won't say always, but I would say every year at least 2 new pieces come in.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a lot of fun.
So you'll start to figure out the rhythm. Here's a great peak time. Here's a lower time. Well, pre-pandemic, I should say.
Sure.
Pandemic threw everything out of whack.
Of course.
Right. So now, you got to start again. Like, let's see if we can figure out kind of the
rhythm.
peak and the rhythm of the year
when you take
and how
a vacation,
it works out.
that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's fun, but it's not for everyone. And I don't want anyone to think it's going to be easy.
Do you think it's easier because you have a partner? And in other words, it's easier, you think, I know it's hard to speak just for one person. If somebody wanted, let's say, I know like Ben Jackson's been very successful in Houston with his one-man show, and Steve Cohen, that kind of a thing. But do you feel like by having another person to lean on, it's a little bit easier?
Well, yes and no. One, we both have our strengths. So in that sense, it is easier. But like anything, when you have 2 people, especially married, working together, there are times when one person might want to end up at the bottom of a swamp. It could be, there could be those days when you're like, you know what? No. And so you have to find out. And it's true, if you're married, or let's say you're going to bring your partner in or whoever it is, and you're close, you have to have assigned duty. You have to assign duties.
Mm-hmm.
And you can consult with each other.
You can't step in each other's lane.
Right. Somebody has to have the final say.
Yeah.
She has the final say on some things, and maybe I would have went a different way, but that's not my lane. I have to stay in my lane. And once you understand that, it's fine. Right. And because if I go, no, it's got to be my way, you're not going to last as a couple or as a marriage or as just a performing couple or a business couple. You still have to give and take, right? I mean,
just like with any partnership, right, Scott?
I would think so, certainly. Yeah. I was thinking about Penn and Teller for an example, who people think like their best friends probably hang out all the time. No, I mean, it's a business thing, and they work together, and they work very well together, and they understand each other's lane like that, and it couldn't be better.
Right. And I'm sure behind the scenes they have some creative differences, but you figure out how to deal with that, and you go, all right, here we go.
Yeah. So how do you, when you come up with some ideas, is it something, let's say like Kat, where you've seen something saying, I've seen somebody else, or I've read something, or I've been thinking about this idea, or you come to her, or, do you come independently, or then you kind of talk things out? So
are you talking about the show or the business?
Just the show.
So on the show, that's more my lane. So I'll come up with some idea pieces.
Okay.
And now they haven't gone anywhere yet. I haven't done anything other than think about, maybe we'll do this. Then I go to her and I say, hey, what do you think of this? She'll she'll tell me what she thinks. We have a little discussion, and I take it back to the laboratory, and I work on it. And now I get it to where it's almost ready for the show. Mm-hmm. And then we talk again. And typically that piece, I won't put a lot of work into scripting yet. And I might do most of the talking as we drop it in to just test it. So she'll have some pieces, but we're not going to put a lot of work in until we see what the audience thinks. Mm-hmm. So we drop the piece in. The audience has its response. Then we talk about it. It might be in for a whole weekend, so 2 or 3 shows. Now we talk about, what'd you think of this? How'd you come with this? Blah, blah, blah. And now and if it passes, if we go, yeah, that seems to have legs, then we work on it some more. And now she starts becoming a little bit more involved in it, right? Up to this point, I've done most of the work, but now she starts going, because now we have to get her voice.
Sure.
All right, because
you're both pretty much on stage all the time together,
Correct.
right?
Yes. So now she starts putting her voice into the script. And in my mind, I've already kind of understood what part she's saying. But in the beginning, it's a thing of, because we do have pieces that don't make it, right? You drop it in and they're like, oh, this piece did not make it. Like we just had a piece recently, Kismet.
I still love it.
Yeah.
But it just.
It didn't quite.
There's something that's not there yet?
Something's not right. So we have to
Is it not something that you can work on to make it better?
Yeah, we're still going to work on it. We just have to figure out.
It's not dead.
No,
it's not dead, but it's now on a back shelf.
Gotcha, I understand.
But we put it in the show. And, I did the first thing, the first scripting. And so I'm saying 90% of the words. And then we said, okay, I think we got it. Now she's got her scripting in and we're starting to roll with it. But at the end, we're like, it's just not,
it's not hitting. Why isn't it hitting? That's what we have to figure out.
And then we will actually tell, because people after the show want to hang out with you.
Yeah.
And I'll ask them, that one piece, what'd you think of it? And they'll go, no. We know it's not good yet. What do you think? And now we start to get an honest feedback.
Yeah.
Oh, well. And on this particular piece, one woman goes, well, gosh, everything you guys do is so amazing. That piece isn't that amazing.
Good feedback.
Okay, good to know. And that's just from the people who want to hang out with you after the show and talk.
Sure.
And since they're fans now, I value their input.
Mm-hmm.
And so let me ask, I want to know what you thought of that piece. And now we said, all right, let's take it out. And
we kind of knew that, but we love that piece. And you're like, oh, you don't want to let it go because it's so much fun, but you got to let it go.
Well, I was thinking about David Copperfield's Alien thing that he left in and he kept working on. I mean, because he was committed. It's like, I love this. I know there's something here.
And you will do it. Like we have certain pieces, which we have. We said, we know this piece is good. And you leave it in. I will tell you, there's a piece we want to do a 4F this year. And we got it in the show. And it's working in the show. It's getting good response, but it's not 4F ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's okay yet. It's still being sanded. It's still being, tweaked. And for a lay audience, it's fine.
Yeah.
But for a 4F audience, we need it to be
different level.
Yeah. It needs a lot more sanding before we bring it here. But yeah, so but it's fun. That's the fun stuff. So once you develop a show like that, then you have fun like that.
Mm-hmm.
But they just need to know. You have to have that business ability and that understanding of marketing if you want to do this.
Well, yeah, and that's why I wanted to talk about the two people together, because there are some people again wanting to go out like maybe with a friend because they like doing something, and how do you hand the ball to somebody else, or like in your case again, you're both on stage and you're of one mind, it seems like, and one finishes the other sentence and things like that. And I mean, that's one way of going, and others in which they might kind of be on stage for a while and then one leave and then another one come back, et cetera. You can tag team it.
Yeah. And if you can find one person who's, okay, this person's great creativity and you're good at business.
Yeah.
And we both love magic. Mm-hmm. Then that's a great way to do it, right? If you both have some complementary things.
Skills,
but if you both love magic and you hate business, you're not going to make it, right?
That's a very good point. I think we all know people who are good at one or the other, but not necessarily both. I mean, I know a fellow who is a wonderful magician, but he can't market himself out of a paper bag, I mean, he's not going to.
We all know that. Like, you're so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, you should be someplace. Why aren't you?
Yes.
Yes, because that person needs help. They need someone to take them to do the stuff that they can't do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned just briefly about a virtual assistant. Have you ever used or thought about using virtual assistants, or do you know much about that?
No, because we have each other.
Don't need one.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, there's not too much now. As AI gets more sophisticated, and we are definitely down deep in the AI rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
I think
in the show, things you're doing, or just
things that are showing, and even now moving towards even the marketing side. But yeah, for stuff that we're developing, even in with the show, AI is just so amazing, and so we've been far down that rabbit hole. But the trouble is, it's evolving so fast you can't even. I mean, literally, month to month, the changes are huge.
Right.
And you're just like, holy cow. So that's going to be amazing. So again, going back to the marketing side, it's going to change. And her and I are talking a lot about that and being aware, hyper-vigilant of like, all right, how's that going to affect us as we move forward? So yeah, those are and I would tell you this, here's a great way to put it is, we're talking about that guy who's a fantastic magician, doesn't know how to market. And I will tell you, the joke is, we always say, oh, a magician doesn't even get out of bed till noon.
Yeah.
And it's great. And it's true. But if you want to do what we're doing, you got to get out of bed at 8 because you have to work.
Who's going to answer the phones?
Yeah.
Because someone's going to call you during business hours.
That's exactly right.
You don't get
Who's going to respond to the emails?
You don't get the luxury of like, well, I'm just going to lay in bed because I'm an artist and I'll get up and do what. No, now you're a businessman. So you have to play that role as well.
Right. Yeah. Unless you have farmed that out to somebody else who's going to be your business partner.
Like a virtual assistant can do a lot of that.
They can.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, do you know how to do a virtual assistant? Do you know how to do all that stuff? And that typically that magician who lays in bed till noon does not.
Does not.
They have a great show, but they don't know.
I've heard as far as AI goes that the way it's expanding is, I want to say it was Amazon, I think, was looking at maybe like reopening 3 Mile Island or something because they need that much power as a nuclear reactor, would develop to power all the new AI that's being used.
Well, Sam Altman just said, quit saying please and thank you, because that wastes energy for the AI. Because people go, oh, thank you for that.
Oh,
yeah, because
really?
it's just our natural thing.
Sure.
But for the AI, they read that and they have to process it, and it doesn't.
No, but what I read is they're specifically making AI more friendly. That's why they're adding in some of those terms like you're welcome, saying very, complimentary things when they communicate back and forth, because they want us
to be more human.
To be more human
but
and to have us like them.
Yes, yeah. But it burns more energy.
Well, true.
So I think probably Sam Altman's rivals are probably going, no, we love that part. But Sam's like, no, you're wasting energy. Just use it. So that's what I mean by AI is growing.
Well, how many server farms in Indiana alone? I think there's 2 potential big server farms that are coming into Indiana to handle all of this.
Yeah, it's just getting crazy.
It is. That certainly, I think, is the future, or at least the way that it seems to be going. But they'll find some way, I think, to make that more compact and more efficient.
Yep.
I think they'd have to, just like they made chips smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Right.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Saturday, June 14th. Is going to be a phenomenal day for magic lovers in the New York City area. The New York Magic Conference is going to be held from 10 until 4, and then later that evening from 7 to 9 is going to be the annual Salute to Magic. You don't want to miss either one of those. The New York Magic Conference is going to be this year a one-trick pony, which is going to feature some of New York's most influential magicians, and they're going to be performing and teaching one of their pet effects. And that's going to be held over at the Abracadabra shop on West 21st Street. And for more information, you go to NewYorkMagicConference.com. But then following that is going to be the Salute to Magic. And I've got with me then right now Joe Setti, who's going to tell us more about it. Hey there, Joe.
Hey, Scott. Thanks for having me on. This is the 116th Salute to Magic. We've been doing this annually since 1909. And the lineup of talent we have this year is from all over the world. From our Master of Ceremonies, Eric Walton. From Canada, Billy Shui. From Scranton, Pennsylvania, John Graham. And all the way from Spain, Javi Benitez. And every year, Scott, we honor a Magician of the Year, who this year, I'm happy to say, is one of our own members, Herb Scher.
Herb is someone who is well known in the magic community, certainly in New York City.
Absolutely. Herb's name is on everybody's lips here in New York City, either at the New York Public Library, where he's donated his time for historical archives and stuff like that, to interviews with David Blaine at the New York Public Library. And Herb's been a past president and hold numerous officer positions for our parent assembly as well. Herb has always elevated and pushed the art of magic here in New York City. And I would say one of the warming aspects of Herb is he really appreciates the camaraderie of magic in its community. So anything he can do to bring magicians together and support that community is really the shining star of what Herb Scher is about.
Sounds like no one more perfect than him to be honored here this year. Well, that sounds
I'm really
great.
happy to be handing that award to him later on this year at the Salute.
So where will people go in order to get more information and to purchase tickets?
Sure. SaluteToMagic.com will give you an overview of the performers that are performing and an option to click a button to buy tickets. SaluteToMagic.com.
And also then again for the other event going on from 10 till 4, the New York Magic Conference is at NewYorkMagicConference.com. Thanks again, Joe.
Have a great one, Scott.
You too. And now back to our podcast with Christian and Katalina.
Yeah.
Speaking of that in electronics, I have to ask, since you do a lot of mentalism, how much of that is organic, and what do you think about what we're using now that are very expensive types of props?
So we are not against electronics.
Mm-hmm.
However, I will tell you, my feeling is now, and also we have to understand this. Electronics 10 years ago and now are much different.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
10 years ago, you prayed that it worked.
Yeah. Well, think about even longer when they had these tubes and things,
Yeah. Wires held on with a dotted silver.
That's right. Yeah, your soldering gun,
So they're more sophisticated now. But there's 2 problems with that. And one is it's still electronics that could go wrong.
Sure. Well, a thread could break, too, you know.
True,
yeah.
true.
But also, and I think this is becoming a bigger problem, it can make some of the performers be lazy so that the electronics become kind of noticed. In other words, if I have something that can do something amazing and I just keep going back to that then a person can go, well, I think there's something special about that thing because you always use that thing to do whatever, that special writing pad or whatever it is. And you're like, huh. So I think you have to, Kat and I have a tendency, we'll put electronics in, and then once we see the trick works, our next thought is, how can I now do this without electronics? The electronics got us into the trick, but now how can I do it with maybe not doing electronics?
Or the electronics has to enhance, but not take over the trick and not be the trick. Yeah. It shouldn't be the main thing, but it just has to be a helpful tool. So that's kind of how we look at it.
And I think, you just summed up what I was trying to get at, which was, you said it beautifully. The electronics should not be the trick.
Right.
Yeah. And that becomes the problem, especially for, I think, more amateur people who haven't done a lot with an audience. They're just like, look, it did it. Yeah, but no. Right. It should be hidden in the trick.
But we're also, I think our style is to be, more story-based, more why are we doing this? And what's the reasoning behind it? Where some people just might do trick after trick after trick. That's not us. We like to weave a theme and a story into our performances. So that's a little bit just a
Sure, it takes all of the attention away from the thing.
The prop.
Right.
It's correct. Right, because the trick should not be about the prop. The trick should be about the audience, how they're feeling.
Yeah.
And, what the emotion is that you're trying to get across to them.
But you've seen shows where it's just trick after, and there's nothing to say about them.
True.
Right.
As much as I love and respect Doug Henning and what he has done to revolutionize magic, I always felt like that what he did was one unrelated trick after the other. It was all woo-woo. It's like, hey, look at this. I mean, for no reason. I mean, why there's no story with it, or whatever. And let's go on to the next one. Wow, that's really cool. And how does this happen? I don't know, but here's something else. And this nickel appeared, whatever it is. And again, not trying to take anything away. I just think that it was a different style then that has been carried on by some people of going from one trick to the next that's unrelated without any segue or any story through line, as opposed to when Copperfield first started with the vignettes, and he's talking about when he first experienced snow or something, or his grandfather. You're telling something that has an emotion, because I think it's like Maya Angelou had said about, it's not about what, at the end of the day, of what I'm paraphrasing this horribly, what people saw, but how you made them feel.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's something that as you're scripting and thinking about things that you're
always,
particularly mentalism.
Yeah. After we think about the trick, we think, what's the emotion we want out of this? And of course we want people to go, whoa. But beyond that, is this a sentimental piece? Is it a piece where we want them to laugh and then go, whoa? Is it a piece where we want it to be very personal for them?
So do you intentionally then script this like for, so that you have plateaus and plains, and I don't want to say valleys, but you kind of take them on a roller coaster? Do you?
Absolutely. We look at different, I'll give you a very funny story. We had a joke for a long time in our show that was a groaner. Just a big groaner. It's very funny, but you have that, but it had the groaner effect, and we loved it. And we had another magician who said, "Oh, I can't believe you have that in. I would take that out." No, it's another emotion. It's a fun emotion where we took them on a ride, and at the end they laugh, but they groan because it's fair. It's a groaner joke. And
but we admit it to them. Yeah, that was a groaner, so the audience knows we know.
Yeah, right. And so it creates, and now what happens is it creates the step off point for the next trick. So now where am I going with that? Where they all went, oh, okay, well now it's a good place. Let's take them to the next emotion. Where if it's the same emotion, that's like eating the same food. Oh, this emotion, it's the same.
Hamburger every day.
Yeah. So we want different feels in the show. And yeah, I think that really, I think that's why people like to come back to our show, because it's not just candy.
So that's another good tip, I think, for people who are looking at trying to do a show, about how that you would build a show and wanting to have people, come back and get them emotionally involved, with that.
That is a big part. In fact, we did a show. So our show is 50 people. We experimented with 100 people, and we immediately went back to 50 people because you lose the intimacy. You lose the being able to touch everyone in the audience.
And look everyone in the eye and know their names. People love that. So that intimate feel is fantastic.
Do you remember their names and call them by name then during the show too, as much as you can?
We have them wear name tags.
Oh, you do? Okay, that's good.
We do.
As they come in?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, when they check in with our ticket person before the show, they must wear put a name tag on. I don't want to say must. I say we would like them to wear a name. Some people don't, but totally fine. So yeah, we love it. And then they love it.
Yes.
Because I can say Scott. I can say, talk to Scott. So
out of nowhere, Kat can just look at us and we go, Scott, what do you think? Blah, blah, blah. And Scott is being like, oh, wow, she's talking to me.
Yeah.
We don't have to go through the, oh, great.
You're in the second row.
The gentleman in the white. What is your name? And you have this long thing. It's just Scott. Oh, gosh, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then and he's immediately in. And I think by using these names immediately throughout the show, people feel like, oh, they know me.
Mm-hmm.
We know them. And everything kind of just, oh, this is a family thing. And we get that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We get it a lot where people go, God, this was just really fun that we just knew each other.
Because we felt like we were part of the show, actually, physically part of the show.
Right.
When they put their names on the tags, do they write them themselves or is it?
They write it themselves.
Okay, because I was thinking two things. One would be if you had the front office person actually write so that way that it'd be large enough or in a script that you could read or that you'd have them printed out as they come in.
Yes.
No, we have them write it themselves because he's very funny, right? So he can come up with a great line for someone that writes really tiny on the name tag.
So I get lots of fun byplay with if I can't read your name and I walk all the way up to you
and squint.
And now I'm looking right down at your chest and I'm like, Bob, 3 font. That's what you went with. Whole name tag.
Okay, that's funny.
Yeah, so you get a whole lot of fun. And again, it becomes personal because I'm looking at your name and your name is so powerful. So
there's nothing sweeter than the sound of your name.
Right. And I give all credit to Katalina. And the reason Katalina did it was in the show how many times I would go, Bob. And then 2 minutes later, Bill, honey, his name is Bob. Okay. Bill was last show, whatever. And so I was so terrible with names. She's like, oh, we're done. And she made everyone wear name tags, but not only did it help me, but we weren't prepared for the change of, that really changed everything in the show.
But sometimes people will have fun with us. Like one day we had a whole row of Pats.
Yeah.
Like this whole group together, Pat, 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 Pat. And we're like, okay.
But
so we got to have fun with all the Pats.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's always.
And so did you?
Oh,
follow
absolutely.
the instruction?
Yeah.
I mean, pat each of them? And, Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you whatever they do, we're in. And we had a guy, what do you call himself the other day? Rico Suave or something. I forget. But
sometimes people make up their own names.
We had Tony and Tiger, Tony the Tiger.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So whatever fun, if they're going to do that, then I'm going to have fun with them. And then they have fun.
Yeah.
But like you said, their own name they're very powerful.
Okay.
Very powerful.
Well, interesting.
Yeah.
And your show is 1 hour long. Is that right?
About an hour, 15, hour 20.
Okay. Yeah. And how many nights a week?
2 to 3.
Okay. So you're on Friday, Saturdays? Or?
Fridays and Saturdays, yeah.
Okay. Do you do like an early, late show sometimes?
Yep. Sometimes early, late, the higher seasons. And a lot of times during the week, we'll have a buyout of a corporate on a Wednesday or Tuesday or a bus tour or whatever. So it's a constant. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know you did college shows and you were on that circuit then for a long time. And is this why you decided to have a theaters? Because you were tired of being on the road?
Yeah. 10 years on the road.
How long?
Enough.
10?
10.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you want to sleep in my own bed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You get older, you're like, I can't sleep in another bed. Like, you travel a lot.
Sure.
Aren't you ready when you go home? You're like, I love it.
I mean, I really, when I hit the sack, it's like, this is wonderful.
Right.
For a night or two.
In fact, if you want, I'll tell you the story of how it started.
Yeah.
Was so when you do tours after a decade, you start to create a rhythm.
Yeah.
I mean, you're almost always in the same place around the same
time of the year. So you know the restaurants to go and all that kind of stuff and whatnot. Yeah.
And Easter weekend, we'd always be right by Myrtle Beach.
Okay.
And unless you're doing Passion of the Christ, you're not working Easter weekend. So what we would do is we'd say, you know what? And it'd be like a 4-day break for us.
Yeah.
And let's just run to Myrtle Beach and just chill. So that became part of our tour is we knew we'd be right around there at Easter. We'd run over to Myrtle Beach, get one of those big rooms where you have your own refrigerator stove and just, it was a nice chill out
Hit
moment.
The lazy river.
Yeah. So this one year, we're sitting out on the balcony. She's drinking her wine. I had a whiskey and a cigar. And I'm looking at the beach. And it's just off season, right? Because it's Easter. It's not high season for them.
Right.
It's just packed. I mean, there's still people walking. It's
kind of chilly.
It's evening, right? But they're still walking. I mean, I'm like, look how many people are here off season. And I turned to my wife and said, why are we not performing here instead of going from place to place?
Because, they want something to do at night. They don't have anything to do.
Right.
So we sat down.
That's why they're wandering around. They're looking for something to do.
Yeah, exactly. So we sat down with the computer and came up with a 3 or 4 page business plan, kind of. And we said, what's about working at a hotel? So it all came to that, at a resort. So we took it down. The next day, we took it to the hotel we were staying in. Let's just throw it at them and get more feedback so we can continue to write a better business plan. So we pitched it to the woman, and the woman goes, I love this plan. When can you guys start? And we're like, we are not prepared for that. We were just thinking you were going to tear it apart and give us more ideas. So we say, hey, let us think about it. Because, we're booked out until, when you're doing a college circuit, you're booked 6 months
in
out.
advance.
Yes. So we took it, we had lunch, and we said, that was a fluke. That was some weird fluke. Let's go down the street, pitch it to another resort.
Pitched it to the second resort, and she's like, okay, let's go look at the space right now. I'll show you the spaces where you can potentially perform in the resort. And we're like, okay, let's do it because we want to see it. So she said, what about this room? This is how we can set it up. How about this room? And we're like, wow, okay.
I remember she had to
and
run
they had not seen your show yet.
No.
Okay.
We had
a good pitch, but I don't think it was that good.
They just loved the idea.
Yeah. And we remember that was a room that didn't face the ocean.
Right.
She was ready to move us in that day.
Yeah.
And we're like, I think we might be on to something. And so we then finished working out. Katalina did a great job of creating a pitch. And then we started going to resorts.
So wait, we went home.
Yeah.
Then I have this great book that I put together to pitch everything, put a bunch of stuff in there. And then
we started going to resorts.
In our next tour, then we started going to resorts to pitch the idea.
And they would hire us. And so that idea at that point was we live in the resort.
Right.
For a couple of weeks, and we just do shows during the day for the people. And we did that for about 2 years, and that was...
and that was in the off season after the school, after the college?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or whatever.
Or whatever.
We started kind of blocking out some time away from the, our college agent was like, what are you doing? Stop. No, we love you. You can't, but we're like, no, we need this week or 2 off to try this other idea. But after 2 years of that, we started going, I think this is what we're going to do. And then we started moving away from the college market. And then we just said, could we do this at home? Because you're still not home, even though you're living in great resorts. You're still not home. And then the rest is history. We did it. We got to.
But why did you decide to do it at home? When I say home, I mean being in Indianapolis, as opposed to saying Myrtle Beach is a tourist spot. Or Indianapolis is not a tourist spot. Well, we didn't want to
move. Because if we're going to do it at Myrtle Beach, you're going to move.
Okay.
You have to move. And we were certain it would work. But I think we're just tired and let's just see if we can set it. I think literally we only thought, even if it works for a year or 2 in Indianapolis, great. Then we can think Myrtle Beach or something. Because Myrtle Beach was on our radar.
Yeah.
But I think because Indianapolis took off.
Well, we weren't sure. Right. We weren't sure how long we were going to last in Indianapolis. It was a crapshoot, right? Like you said, it's not a tourist town.
Right.
So how long can we make this work? And we thought, okay, well, we'll make it work as long as we can. And if we have to, we'll move somewhere else.
And
did you cut out college shows at that time?
Finally, we finally cut out.
But I mean, you finally did. But I was saying, whenever you started in Indianapolis and they were wanting you to come back, I mean, did you have that as a crutch, saying, well, if this doesn't work out, I can go back to that?
Well, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. So we started out. College tour was done. We started in the summer. We did a 6-week run in Indianapolis. It was fantastic, but we still had the fall booked out for colleges. And we said,
had to shut down.
We did the fall. And then we said, once that's done, we're done.
We're done.
Full time.
Yeah. And then I remember, because, when you're starting this out, it's a slow process. It's not, you don't fill shows day one, right? Yeah. Well, you do, but that's another story. For the first month or 2, it seems like it's too easy, but it's a weird thing. It's friends, family, and it's also, people who just like to see the newest show.
Novelty, yeah.
Right. But then suddenly that'll drop off.
Yeah.
And now the fight begins.
That's where the marketing has to kick in.
And we were really in that phase. And our old college agent said, hey, would you guys do one more? We have a short tour. We haven't been able to fill your space yet. And we're like, all right, we'll do it. Put more money in our pot and whatever.
Right.
And I think it was like a 2-week tour. And when we were done, we're like, oh, no, we're not doing this anymore.
You're
done. Getting so used to staying at home.
Done. We love it.
And so, we just put our nose to the grindstone.
And do you ever bring in outside talent? I mean, for people, I'm thinking like, Keith Fields and Sarah, for an example, they have people guests.
No.
Okay.
That's not
it's either you or nobody. So if you're sick, then we're closed.
There's some reasons for that. And what they're doing is a slightly different business model.
It is.
And it has its pluses and minuses as well. And we love those guys, by the way. We're great friends with them, and we've shared ideas and secrets. But so here's why you had to be very careful. So for theirs, it's fine because they're doing a different act. So if a bad act happens, the people who go there know, oh, that was just a bad act. What's the act this month? But if you just go, oh, every now and then we'll have another act fill in for us, and that act is bad, well, we're not that kind of show. So they're going to, oh, that show must be bad.
Right, because they judge the rest of the shows as being on that one.
So you have to
course.
be very careful of that. And I learned that from another guy who was doing shows in Florida, and that's what he did. He had a show, and he goes, well, I don't want to go dark often to come in. And his reviews went down.
Wow.
And he went, oh, I can't do this anymore. You know, or if he does, he can only use very specific people.
And honestly, Scott, I mean, we do, like we said, at least 75 to 80 minutes. How many people have that long of a show?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Not that many.
Not that many.
Yeah.
Right.
And the ones who do are normally working.
That's true.
Right. So,
yeah. So, and then we did the Winter Carnival in Indianapolis. So, or not Winter Magic Festival.
Yeah, Winter Magic
in
Festival.
Indianapolis. And we did that for about 5 years. And that's where we started learning, oh, not that many people have an hour show.
They maybe have a good 30-minute show, but that's it.
Remember when I was talking with Joe Given about Dream Masters? I think, their theater out there.
Right.
And he was saying that I don't book people unless they've got a good solid 90.
Yeah.
So he's very particular about that. And of course, Jeff Hobson has his theater where he books people all the time out there.
My heart goes out to him. Says, are they still doing it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I understand how hard it is for them because when we were just doing that, it was, because there's people we reach out, I won't use any names, but there's some people like, oh, I'm sure they do. And they tell us, oh, I only have 30. I'm like, wow, where are you working? Because I need to know where I can just
Well, that was what Joe was saying. He said if some people don't, that Carol and I will actually fill in. So if they've got an hour, we'll do 30. But we prefer someone who's going to be able to do 90.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're right, not everybody does.
Well.
Yeah.
So you had talked just a moment, just in passing about your ghost shows that are coming up. And I was with you somewhere, or maybe it was during COVID or something, and we were talking about your table or something. And so what kind of a show do you do? I assume during Halloween. So during October, you do a full month of kind of seance types of things?
So we've had our ghost show for many years. And then 2 years ago, we added in a seance. So that's a separate show from our ghost show. So our seance was around a table, 12 people max. Very traditional kind of seance stuff. And then the ghost. Were they
joining hands and everything then as well? Or
we didn't actually join hands, but they were sitting right next to each other.
Gotcha.
We won't do that this time. So that was a test. We had a very long table that we bought, and we gimmicked this table up so much.
I saw this someplace. Well, maybe it might have been on David Sandy's thing.
No, we did our Ed Talk on the ghost show. And
that's what it was.
You saw the table and everything. Yes.
Yeah. It kind of comes full circle. We talked about the Ed Talk at the beginning of the show. So, okay, it was one of the Ed Talks. That was it.
So this table is gimmicked, but we won't use that for the next seance show. And the reason is the lesson was because of the way the table is, people can't see what's happening to other people.
I see. And you got to see what's happening. That's part of the...
That's right. And so they don't even though originally I thought, well, that'll be fine. Something happens over here, people react like, oh my God, what happened? And they have to explain it and whatever. So that was in my head of what happened, but it doesn't work because people can't explain stuff.
Sure.
And people want to see it. And I'll give you one example of what we had, which was a lot of fun so we had a doll head on a stick.
Okay.
So it's just this doll head. It's just
like
a creepy
pole or something kind of.
But inside the doll head was a magnet that would pull your fillings out. Okay. And so it just
very strong PK magnet.
Yes, very strong. And so it is, I think we showed it for some reason at the beginning of the show, and it just lays on the table and it's forgotten.
Yeah.
But it's laid next to
a bottle that has a
pendulum.
Yeah, pendulum, but it's a metal
washer.
Ring. Washer. There you go. Yeah, the washer inside that kind of Terry Tyson kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
So
glass jar with the.
And so this is with the lights on and everything. As I gesture to someone, okay, so Bob over there is going to stand up, and what I want you to do is you have the 3 tarot cards. Look at those 3, describe them, and then pick one. And now everyone's looking at him, and then I move my hand, I I'm touching the stick. And remember, the stick is about 2 feet long.
Okay.
I turn the head slightly and it pulls the magnet to the thing. So I can now let go of, and now everybody hears the magnet.
The ding ding on the glass.
Not the magnet, but the pendulum is banging on this big bottle back and forth. Because, once it starts, it's going.
Sure.
And people are like, what is happening? And of course, when they look at me, I'm far from it.
Yeah.
And my hands are up here and they're like, oh my God. So it's very cool stuff like that. Lots of gimmicked things that happen. But it's not right. So we will now do it where the people are in a semicircle and there'll be a table, not that big table, but a table in front of us, which some people will come and sit and they'll switch out. That's the way we'll do it this year.
Do you find that you book that further in advance as far as the October shows, or people have more of an interest in that kind of a thing or not?
Oh, yes.
I would think so.
Yeah. Oh, we won't put it up yet, but probably come.
It sells out earlier than
it will sell. Once we put it up, it'll sell. In fact, we
only put about 3 months on the website, so I don't put the entire year up there because people usually aren't looking that far ahead. So
and stuff could happen to us.
Yes. So
3 months out is the most we want to book because we don't know what we're going to do in 3 months.
Sure.
Right. But the Seance Show and the Ghost Show are being redesigned from all the lessons we learned from the last Seance Show.
And are those two separate shows? I mean, the Seance Show and the Ghost Show?
They're two separate shows, yeah.
Okay, so do you have like a seance from the standpoint that do you present yourself really as a psychic or as a fortune teller or a ghost hunter, or how do you present?
For which?
The seance.
The seance.
Oh, for the seance.
Yeah.
Well, so we called it, okay, first of all, the word seance is not going to be in any of our promo or marketing because we found the younger people have no idea what that word means.
Really?
Unfortunately, we were stunned. So seance is gone. Yes.
I mean, even with the movies and everything, Ouija
the
and all
younger
these,
people
and Annabelle.
They don't know the word.
We had one group of 30-somethings come to the show, and we were saying the word seance to them. Oh, the seance. And went, hey, what does that mean, seance? I'm like, wait.
Oh, okay.
And I asked the entire group, does anybody know what a seance is? Not a single person. Why did you come to this show?
Yeah.
It's literally
that was such a weird, surreal epiphany. Like, what? So gone. So now we're going to say, ghost in the attic or whatever we want to call it.
We don't know
yet.
But it'll be.
But that seance is out.
But it will, if you know what a seance is, you'll get it. If you don't know what a seance is, it doesn't matter. But it's going to be a very intimate seance-y show. And
I would call it kindred spirits.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Because, you're I don't know whether you offer alcohol or not, but that's something. And kindred meaning, these are friendly things and they're friendly spirits and ghosts, and we're bringing them in and you can imbibe also. And we're here for kindred spirits.
And we're going to go with something very similar to that. So I think I'm looking forward to it. We won't do the ghost show this year. It'll just be that seance. Yeah, it'll just be we talked about that.
There you go. That's
surprise,
new.
There you go.
I didn't know.
We talked about that.
No, we did.
Yeah, because the seance show is going to be more people.
People love the ghost show.
I know, but it's going to be more people, and I think you can
there you go, Scott.
More. You can charge more for the seance show because it's an immersive experience.
Correct.
As opposed to the ghost show is more of another nightclub experience.
Yeah.
So we want to create an immersive, like you're going to come in, play with pendulums, do some things, and now it gets darker or it gets, more intense.
Do you add a lot of humor to that or not? Or do you try to avoid humor?
To the ghost show, there is some dark humor.
Okay.
To the seance show, we try not to
have any.
There'll be some because I'm naturally humorous.
That's what I was going to say. It'd be hard for you to kind of not do it.
It is hard.
But for the seance, we're going to tone it down for sure.
It'll be much more dark stories and fun, but not funny. So because we want to create it, again, going back, what is the feeling we want? I don't want you to come to a seance and laugh.
No. You
got to come to a seance and go, this is creepy.
We don't even like people to applaud because we don't want them to think it was a magic effect or something,
And in the seance, that was one of the things. They never applauded.
If they applaud, then you did something wrong.
Yes. Then they think it's a show.
Yeah.
And we want them to, maybe they know it's a show, but not.
We just call it an experience.
Yes. Yeah. So, it's, I'll let you know.
Okay. So how many years have you been doing that?
The seance, the ghost show over a decade. The seance, we only did that 1 year.
This will be our second time.
And now our second time is taking all those lessons from a seance show. And we also talk to people like Terry Tyson, if you know who that is.
I know Terry very well.
Yep. So, talking to other seance people and getting their input as well.
Have you ever been to Poe's Magic
we have not.
conference? You should go to that.
I was just talking to Tiffany about that.
You should do that.
Because
it is a good one, indeed. Yeah, out in Baltimore. It's going to be coming up soon.
And the other one was
August.
the Eastern What just happened in January?
That's going to be, that's true. But there's another one that's called Mystorium or something that's going to be in September.
Is that in
Dallas?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's one in Dallas. It's a much smaller one. Pose is really good. I want to say it's coming up early August, like the 5th to the 7th or something, you know. So if you get a chance to go and do that, and it's all about storytelling and different. I mean, Terry gives lectures.
That's right.
And Hiawatha Johnson is going to be there this year.
Great.
And so they have some very interesting people that you would enjoy.
So yeah, it's wild. It's fun. So hopefully we helped your people.
As well.
Your people.
Yeah. Hopefully help your listeners.
And yours as well. And you guys have been listeners for a long time, because I remember when you were on the road doing the school shows, because you'd called me, I think, or we were talking one time, you were saying that you would download just a bunch of them and listen to them when you're
absolutely. Yeah. You just go, we got a trip. All right, let's Magic Podcast. Boom, 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 boom. And it makes it go by fast, because some you have a lot of our friends on, or sometimes people we don't know who they are. Oh, I've never heard of that person, and we're listening to you interview them, and it's just fun. You're just like, oh, this is good. Yeah, we still do it on short trips. We'll be like, all right, check out what's the Magic Podcast.
Yeah, since you're not traveling like you used to, you probably got a backlog now to catch up.
Yes, exactly.
Well, we still run up to Chicago, which is a 3-hour drive. So we will sometimes throw in a couple of Magic Podcasts on the drive up. Like, okay, let's listen.
So if people are wanting to come to your show and they happen to be in Indianapolis or passing through, what's the website? Where do they go, and the name of the show, et cetera?
So the name of the show is Mind Tripping Show, and the website is mindtrippingshow.com. Okay. Keep it easy for you.
Can't be easier.
Easy enough then as well. And it also tells like whenever you're going to be off, like you're here this weekend, or like if you're going to be someplace else.
Those dates aren't posted.
Oh, they're not?
So, nope, not on our website. So you'll just see the ones that we currently will be at.
Yeah.
Right. Sounds like fun. So the name of my podcast, since you do listen, is called The Magic Word. So let me ask you independently. First, Kat, what would be your magic word? What's important to you? What's your philosophy?
Oh, geez. I'm going to defer to you first. Yes, holy cow.
Christian, first of all.
How are you not ready to listen? What? I know, but
I was going to say, for me, I think it's rehearsal. Okay. And by that, I mean not practice, but rehearsal. So actually, when you start working on a piece, getting up out of your chair and walking around and, actually going through all the motions and having a table. Katalina will tell you, I have a table there, that simulates the same table we have in the show in our house, in our, what we call the magic room, so that I can run through everything. Where does everything go? I remember a guy told me once, he says, I can tell a person who works and doesn't at a competition because they'll walk up, pull out a deck of cards, and then they pause, like, where do I put the box at? Because it's not in their mind. They're only used to practicing.
Yes, I see.
Not rehearsing. So rehearsal is my magic word, I think, is that's how you get good.
Rehearse. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Okay.
I like meaning. No, that's what I was going to say, meaning. And, I really thought about it because the show today was I really liked it. I think he had a lot of meaning behind the pieces he specifically chose to do and why he did them.
Right.
And I think that flowed really well in his show today. And I enjoyed it because, and it was, a lot of stuff was touching, right?
Yes.
He did a lot of stuff that we can all relate to.
Yeah.
So I think thinking about the meaning behind why you're even doing this.
So think about the meaning of why you're doing what you're doing.
Correct.
Basically kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah. And we're saying that at the 4F where we just saw a gentleman from China.
Yes.
Who did his one-man show, which was
I loved it.
Stunningly good.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. Making coins appear from bare hands and his sleeves rolled up. I mean,
and
he
you
some
like
incredible
him.
stuff. Exactly. It was not just the magic, which was stunning, but also he had just engaging personality and speaking good English.
And the meaning behind why he was doing it. He explained it to us, why each piece was, important to him.
Right.
And when I showed Katalina a new piece, or when we talked about that earlier, one of her things she'll ask me a lot is, well, why are we doing this? What's the meaning behind this? She always is looking at that angle.
That's what I remember Frank Price used to say. So what's the effect?
Yeah.
Another thing, going to make you stop and think about it. Yeah. Well, thank you guys very much for being my guest today. And I appreciate your time and your words and everything. I think everybody got a lot out of it. I certainly did just by spending some more time with you. I always counted a blessing to do just that. So thank you guys very much.
Always good to see you, Scott.
It always goes longer than we think.
Yeah.
Somehow. We always end up talking so much and we're like, oh gosh, did we go too long?
Never. So with the Magic Word Podcast, that was Katalina and Christian Painter. This is Scotty out. Thank you very much for your time, Christian and Katalina. I appreciate both of you taking the time that you did in order to share your experiences. I was kind of thinking about talking with you about the experiences you have with the seance and the spook show and things like that. That's a whole other separate episode. And during the month of October, typically we do have podcast episodes that are devoted specifically to the kind of, I wouldn't say the dark side, but the macabre, something that's a little bit more different and having to do with the bizarre and perhaps mentalism and seances and that kind of a thing. But I, rather than saving this until later, I thought it'd be good to include that so that way you got a chance to talk a little bit about what you're doing, maybe encourage some people to be thinking that way, because although it's not until October, which is a few months away, now's a good time to kind of get started if you're thinking along that line of having a spook show of your own, that you might want to reach out and talk with Christian and Katalina and get some ideas from them to do your own show. I also want to thank our sponsors this week, the New York Magic Conference and the Salute to Magic. Be sure to check out their websites for more information. That is easy enough at NewYorkMagicConference.com and SaluteToMagic.com. Go check it out and register now. It's coming up on June 14th. Well, there is a lot coming up over the next few weeks, and we're going to be very busy. And before long, we're going to be going to FISM, and that's going to keep me extremely busy, and with the daily reports and everything for, 6 days of reports. Looking forward to that. We got a lot of stuff in the can already for you that's going to be coming up over the next few weeks, and a few people who are scheduled to be recorded, and you can see them, perhaps some of them, on Zoom. I should say on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. If you just look up Scott Wells Magic, you should be able to find it. And not all of our episodes are recorded on video, but some are. And I hope that you enjoy those and the time it takes to put together those videos. Certainly, I appreciate those people who do the podcasts that do have a video component, and ours do occasionally, maybe about 20% of the time. Anyhow, I'm going to shut up. I think it's been a full episode. Hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly have. So until next week, stay well, get booked, and remember to rehearse, not just practice, but rehearse. And also be sure and put meaning into what you're doing. So this way that will make your magic even stronger. This is Scotty out.